Welcome to the show, Karsh. So happy to have
Welcome.
you.
Hey Gigi, thanks for having me over. Super excited to be here.
You want to introduce yourself for everybody in the audience?
Absolutely. Hello everyone. My name is Utkarsh. I am a senior product manager at AWS, and today I'm here to talk about Amazon DataZone, which is a new end-to-end data management service that we have recently launched, and it's now generally available for you all to try it out and use it.
Thanks. When did it become generally available? What was the GA date?
Less than 2 weeks ago.
Oh my gosh.
Yes,
Wow.
It's brand new.
it's brand new. And Gigi, I love that jingle.
Ah,
Thank
thank
you.
you. I'll take that into, account when I pitch my next job of suggesting videos.
What did you do to celebrate GA, Karsh?
Ooh.
I took a day. I took a break first of all,
Yeah,
because
smart.
just few weeks before the GA, since a few weeks before the GA, we had been all working so hard to get the release out. But honestly, the day after GA, the day we went GA, I sent a message on one of our Slack channels. I was like, "Hey, does anyone know what to do next?"
You lost your sense of purpose. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's funny. Jeff was mentioning this earlier, right? At the speed at which we are delivering new features, new even products, I think people might take it for granted out there in the community that there's a whole team of people behind this launch, right? And it took up, I'm sure, a large portion of your life and still continues to do so, even though it's launched. Is that true?
That's absolutely true.
All
Maybe
right.
a little more sleep nowadays, though. A little less worrying ahead of GA.
Yeah, one of my favorite aspects of this show is getting to see the faces behind the products too, because there are human beings that are building these things. All right, Utkarsh, let's talk DataZone. Let's talk data management, right?
Yep.
Let's get an overview first, if you don't mind, about what are some of the challenges. Look, data is ubiquitous. I'm going to do a self plug here. I got a show on the channel called Code Corner, and next week we're going to be talking about working with data as a developer, because data. Spoiler alert for that episode. If you don't want to know, close your ears. Data's coming from everywhere, right? Like it's just being generated nonstop by all kinds of systems that in the past we couldn't have even imagined that were coming from. You're getting data from IoT sensors, you're getting data from your website, real-time analytics coming off that type of stuff. What are the management problems, right? I'm
Yep.
sure it's super easy to manage data at this scale, right? No challenges.
It's like a cakewalk. No, so you absolutely pointed it right, Am. When we talk to our customers about data, there are a few very common themes we hear from them. The first one being data is everywhere, right? And that is why it's very hard to find the right data at the right time. Customers are generating tons and tons of data. They have data stored across multiple different data sources, multiple AWS accounts. And in such a scenario, for someone like a data analyst, it becomes really challenging to even think about do I go and find the data. That's the first big challenge that we hear from our customers. And even if you're able to find the data, getting access to the data is really hard, right? It can take days, even weeks, before you can get access to the data and start using it in your analysis. And then, even if you're able to get access to the data, how do you get access to the right tools to be able to analyze that data? Especially without getting into things like downloading and installing a third-party analytics tool, or keeping it updated, or like trying to figure out permissions by yourself. It's very challenging for customers. Another thing that we hear from customers is collaboration is really hard when it comes to data,
Mhm.
right? Data is always a team sport where personas like a data analyst, a data scientist, a data engineer may all have to come together and sort of own different parts of the end-to-end data analytics journey. But today, there aren't any tools available that facilitate this kind of collaboration. And last is data governance, which is probably the hardest of all of this, because mechanisms to govern data are sort of hidden within individual tools. And that makes it really challenging for customers to govern their data from a single place. So these are some of the core challenges we're trying to solve with DataZone.
Got it. I love that. Data is a team sport.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And that is so true. It's so true. And I'm excited to see the use case that you pulled up today for your demo that I know is coming.
Yeah.
So stay online because we got a demo coming. But I love that because it really is a team sport, but it's like the most complicated communication between that own team. You don't even think about the other team. How do you get the information you need from them? And how are you able to see only what you're allowed to see when doing that? I think that's what DataZone does, right? It makes that all easier.
Yep, exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah, Gigi, well, both of you, you're both product managers here at AWS. I imagine both of you deal with data on a daily basis. Yeah, and so I'm sure you've felt these challenges before too, that Utkarsh was just covering. But as some in chat are pointing out too, we've got Daily Push talking about cleaning the data. It's not even just the consumers of the data, right, that have challenges. Cleaning data, for example, is more on the side of the data producers or the data engineering team, right, which face their own set of challenges as well. I think it's really interesting, and I'd love to hear, Utkarsh, more about. You mentioned different personas working. Like, how does DataZone bridge that gap between the two different user groups? Like, there's probably more than two. But I've definitely heard two just in what you've been talking about so far. The people who are responsible for doing things like Daily Push mentioned, cleaning the data, making the data available. More the engineering side, and then the people who are consuming the data. What's DataZone like for both of these groups? Or more groups? Are we missing any?
Yeah, no, definitely those two groups, but there are more, and I can talk about those. But let me first share a little bit more, but like how DataZone exactly solve these problems, first of all. So what DataZone allows you is to catalog, discover, share, and govern data across the organization. And the way we do that is we have introduced a few very powerful new capabilities with DataZone. The first one is a business data catalog, which allows you to catalog all of your data across the organization in a single place. And not just the technical metadata, not things like names of tables and names of columns, but also business metadata with a lot of business context. And what that enables in turn is for people like data analysts, data scientists, or even data engineers who are looking to find data to come to DataZone and easily search for data and find new data that they may not even have access to, and understand their data with a lot of business context. So that solves the problem of how do you find the data through the business data catalog. And then the next capability that we have launched is called projects. So project enable collaboration. So you can essentially you can think of projects as a use case based grouping, business use case based grouping of people, data, and tools. So imagine you're a data analyst working on a business use case, some business analytics problem, and you need help from a data analyst or a data engineer. You can create a project, add anyone who you like to your project, and now all the members of the project have same set of permissions to all the data and the tools within the project. So from within a project, you can easily work on a common business use case with the same data and same set of tools. That's how it facilitates collaboration. And the next thing that we have launched is data governance and access control. So imagine you find some data in the business data catalog. Now you need to access it. DataZone has a built-in workflow that allows you to request access. And in turn, it notifies the owners of the data about the incoming requests. And they can review those requests, make a decision on whether to approve or reject it, all within DataZone. And then DataZone can also go into data governance tools like AWS Lake Formation or Redshift and manage the permissions for you behind the scenes in just a few seconds without anyone having to go and manually creating those permissions. So that whole process of getting access to the data becomes very simple through DataZone. And lastly, the fourth key capability is a self-service data portal, because we want to make sure that anyone in the organization should be able to access all of these capabilities. And that happens through the data portal, which is a web-based application where you can experience all of these capabilities of DataZone from a single place. And you can log into this data portal using your corporate single sign-on. So you don't need like AWS IAM credentials to be able to access DataZone and get all the goodness that comes with it.
Got it. I have a question.
Mhm.
So I know, and this is pulling from when I was previously in the data analytics TFC. So, and that's our specialist community. So bear with me. But what is the level of permissions that you can give? Is it row-based? Is it column-based? Is it both? Is there a limit to how many people? Like, what is that whole, managing those permissions look like from a user standpoint?
Got it. Yeah. So one key thing that you will see if you use DataZone is that the permissions in DataZone are given on a project level, right? Because if you're a member in a project, you want to make sure that everyone in the project has the same level of access to data. So what you will see is that when you create a project, you can create environments within the project. Now, environments basically allow you to create infrastructure and create necessary permissions so that members of the project can access any analytics tools or get access to the data. So and within the environment, there is an IAM role that can be created, and this permissions are given to the IAM role of the project, and that's how all the members of the project can now assume this role and easily access all the data that is given access to the project, and also any permissions to tools like Amazon Athena or Redshift Query Editor. They can just transition from DataZone into these tools easily while assuming the role of the role that was created by the environment.
I didn't realize I was outnumbered because I'm not a data expert. I'm more on the dev and ops side. So Gigi, I didn't know you were in the
It was a past life, roughly 18 months ago.
Oh, wow. So long ago, you probably, yeah. Wow. No, it's funny. Like when I was talking to Utkarsh, getting prepared for the segment that we're doing today, a lot of what he was talking about, I was like, this seems really familiar from the DevOps world and like a CI/CD pipeline with like pushing out code, except instead of code, you're working with data, right? Like it's the same type of idea. You need people to access the code base that only should access the code base. You need to get that code somewhere else, deployed, same with data, right? So, all right, we've got a ton of data coming in. I liked how Daily Push put it earlier. I think they said data is the new currency, right? So we're hiring people to work with this data. We need to get them actually working with this data, and we've covered a bunch of the challenges that they're going to face. And we've heard in the abstract, Utkarsh, how DataZone does this. Can we see it? Can we actually take a look?
Absolutely, yes. And I have a demo
All
that
right.
I'm going to show all of you. So,
Demo time.
Yeah.
Ready for me to pull up your screen?
Yes.
All right. There we go.
All right. So I have a demo. Basically, what I'm going to show you is an end-to-end journey of how you can get started with Amazon DataZone right from scratch. And we'll first start in the AWS Management Console, where I'm going to quickly set up DataZone for an organization. And from there, we will jump into the data portal. And that's where you can experience all of the capabilities, such as the business data catalog, projects, and so on. And in the data portal, what I'm going to do, I'm going to I'm going to basically get in the shoes of two different personas. The first is a data producer in the sales organization who is going to produce some sales data and publish it to the business data catalog in DataZone. And then I'm going to jump into the shoes of a analyst on the marketing team who is looking for that data. And I'll show you how you can find and access that data. So let's get started.
All right.
Let's see it.
Okay, so I have Amazon DataZone open on my screen. The first thing that you see is there's an option to create a domain. So domain is basically how you start your journey with DataZone. And you can think of domain as like an organizing entity where all of your business data catalog, your data assets in the catalog, your projects, and your users essentially exist. So I'm going to give this a name quickly because this is a use case about a retail organization within a company. I'm just going to call it retail domain. And then there are a few settings here, which I'm just going to skip past everything. And I'm going to use this quick setup option. Now, this is a very easy way to configure DataZone. And it's a really easy way to get started with DataZone and try it out. Because under the hood, if you choose the quick setup option, DataZone just automatically takes care of any IAM roles that you have to create, any other configuration or settings that you have to do. So without getting too much into the details of that, I'm just going to create a domain. And now it's going to take about 30 seconds for the domain to get created. But essentially, behind the scenes right now, DataZone is creating the necessary IAM roles. It's also creating an Amazon S3 bucket and essentially configuring this domain so that users of the domain can work with data in this domain.
Got it.
All right.
What's this? When someone wants to start using DataZone, do they have to be opted in to have permissions? Let's say they're at a company that's totally locked down.
Mhm.
Is it you can just give permissions to DataZone and everything else should be grandfathered in, or do you need permissions to all those services that just popped up on that domain page?
Correct. So you need DataZone need permissions to be able to access different services, right? DataZone works with a bunch of different services under the hood. For example, AWS Lake Formation, Redshift, Amazon Athena, and the IAM roles that you saw that showed up on the previous screen basically give DataZone the necessary permissions to do that.
Great.
All right, so the domain is created, and one thing that I want you to note here is that it also generates a link to the data portal. And I'm just simply going to click on this link, and this should take me to the DataZone portal. There you go. We are in the portal now. And if I close this, you'll see that right now it's a blank slate. There is a search bar, which allows you to search the business data catalog, but right now there's no data in there. So let's maybe add some data to this catalog. So the journey of any data producer or a data consumer always starts with a project in DataZone, right? So I'm going to create a project. I'll call it sales producer project because we are going to produce some sales data. And then we are going to publish it to the DataZone catalog. So here you can see that once your project is created, you can add members to the project, right? So that enables you to collaborate with those members. If you want to work with data, you have to create an environment. Like I was saying before, environments is how you deploy the necessary infrastructure, create necessary resources and permissions within the project. So let me quickly create an environment. Because we're going to use this environment to publish, I'm just going to call it publish environment. And the next thing we do is select a profile. Now, profile is essentially a template that contains the necessary technical information for DataZone to be able to create the environment. Now, what I mean by that, environment is created in an AWS account in a region, right? So a profile contains the information for things like, which AWS account or region should the environment be created in. And you can see, like, for example, this data lake profile, it also includes things like which resources should be deployed as part of this environment. So you can see that it deploys some Glue resources, like a couple of AWS Glue databases, an Amazon S3 location, Amazon Athena. So this basically will help members of the project to produce and consume data in a data lake. So now I'm going to create the environment. And
all right, I'm gonna pause you right there just for a second, Utkarsh, and anybody just joining us, if you're new to AWS On Air, we are live with Utkarsh, who is taking us through a demo of DataZone, which we talked earlier on in the segment about all of the challenges that we're faced when we're working with data at scale in a company. You've got data governance issues. You got to make sure that the right people can get to that data and the wrong people can't. So DataZone is what's helping us do that. And Utkarsh has started walking us through how we get DataZone up and running. So Sorry for stepping on your toes there, Karsh.
No, I think the timing was perfect, AM, because creating an environment takes about a minute. So you filled it up perfectly.
Fill in time. That's my specialty.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna, like in this demo, I'm gonna create another environment. So maybe just have something ready to fill
There's
up.
always something kicking around up here, Kirsch. You never know. You never know what it is, though. That's the problem.
I have a question while we're waiting for the last check mark to pop up.
Yep.
When you are using DataZone, what kind of identity providers can you use with it? Are there restrictions?
So DataZone is very tightly integrated with AWS IAM Identity Center, which is essentially an AWS service that allows you to connect to your identity providers. So any identity provider, such as Azure Active Directory, Okta, that can be configured in IAM Identity Center, you can connect DataZone with your identity provider.
Very nice. Thanks. I think we're good to go now.
All right, so the environment has been created. The first thing that I want you to notice in this environment is there's a link that allows you to go to Amazon Athena. Now I'm going to click on this link, and it's going to open Amazon Athena in a new tab. Now, if you're familiar with Amazon Athena, one thing that you will notice is there is your DataZone environment is automatically selected here. Now, if you're familiar with Athena, you will know that Amazon Athena shows work groups here, and you're supposed to figure out which work group to use. Also, like I did not have to like get any permissions to start accessing Amazon Athena. Otherwise, in without DataZone, someone will have to go and give me permissions to be able to access Athena. All that gets abstracted away by DataZone.
That's very cool.
That's
With the data portal, Utkarsh, who's typically logging into that? Is that the analysts? Is it the data engineers? Is it both?
Yeah. So I think there are three personas that are going to log into the data portal. First are data producers who want to produce, who own some data, and they want to add it to the business data catalog so that other people across the organization can find that data. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm kind of in the shoes of a data producer and trying to produce some data. Okay. The other persona that would log into the data portal is a data consumer, like a data analyst, even a data scientist, and also a data engineer can also be a data consumer, right?
Right.
So if you're looking to find some data, get access to it, and analyze it using tools like Amazon Athena or Redshift, you will come to DataZone. And the last persona is of someone like a data steward or someone who needs to govern the data. You can do that too from the data portal.
Okay. So basically, short answer, everyone is coming into the data portal, and that's how you both produce data sets and consume data sets. And then, as you just showed us, if you're trying to work with a data set on the consumption side, you can open up other tools like Athena, which Robert Tables dropped into chat. Fantastic tool. I have to agree with Robert. One of my favorite data tools. Very easy to work with. Yeah, are we gonna get into Athena at all here?
Yes, we are going to get into Athena. So another thing that I want to point out here is that we have a couple of databases here that we have access to. These are also databases that did not exist before, and DataZone has created these two databases for specifically just for the members of this project to be able to work with data using Athena. So the first database is we call it Publication Database, or PubDB. And this is the database where you have both read and write access. So as a data producer, you can use this to produce new data in Athena. And then the other database is called the subscription database. So any data that you get access to through the DataZone catalog will be fulfilled in this database, and you'll see that those tables that you get access to start showing up in the subscription database. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just simply paste a quick query here. And all the SQL query is doing is it's going to create a table. And we are creating this table in the publishing database. Uh-oh.
Oh, no. There's never a perfect demo. It's not you, Utkarsh. Doesn't look real if there's
I
not
think
one.
it was a copy and paste mistake. So mine.
Hey,
was-
look. This is how the
Perfect.
audience knows we're live.
Mhm.
There you go. Live demo bugs right there.
Or maybe it's not live. I'm just pretending. Just kidding. All right. So the query was successful, and we can see that a table was created in the publishing database of the environment. So now we want to add this table to the DataZone catalog. So let's go back to the DataZone portal. And what we are going to see is, to be able to publish this, I need something that's called a data source in DataZone. And if I go to my data tab, I can see this data source. And what I see is that you don't even have to create a data source, because there is one data source that DataZone creates by default for you. And if I open it and I go to the source definition, what I'll see is that the publication database is this data source is connected to the publishing database of the environment. And the start wildcard means that any table that gets added to this publishing database, this data source can just bring that table into DataZone. So to do that, I'm just simply going to run this data source. And it will probably take about 10 seconds for this run to complete. But once that's complete, you will see the same table that we had just produced now start showing up in DataZone. And there you go. The same table is here. Now, one thing you should note here is that this table right now can only be seen by the members of the project. So it's added as an inventory to the project. But to make it visible to anyone in the organization, you'll have to publish it to the catalog. So let's take a look at how that works. I'm going to open this table. And one thing that you will notice is that DataZone was able to bring in a bunch of technical metadata about this table from AWS Glue. So the account, the S3 location, the ARN of the table, also like what is the technical name of the table. And if I go to the schema tab, you will see that a bunch of all of those columns in the tables are also automatically brought into DataZone. So this basically captures the technical metadata. But it did not stop there. It also, you can see these icons here, these little green brainy looking icons. This means that DataZone was also able to generate business names for all of your tables, as well as the columns in those tables. Now, this is always a big problem, because when you're adding some data to the business data catalog, you want to make sure that whoever is looking at your data, they can understand this data. And one key component of that is be able to have business-friendly names for your tables and columns. And curating all of that can be very cumbersome and manual task for customers. So DataZone has launched this really cool feature that we called automated metadata generation that can automatically generate a bunch of business metadata for you. So all I can do, I think this name looks correct to me, so I can just accept this.
Let me pause you right there. Yeah, Gigi, I think you were going to do the same thing, weren't you, Gigi? We got some questions from chat. You want to take those,
Yeah.
Gigi?
Yeah, I think maybe you had one that you picked out first. It's moving quickly on my feed.
We've got, yeah, there you go. Do you have to deploy data discovery roles via control tower for data discovery?
No, you don't have to.
Okay. And then one more from that same viewer. How will it work in a multi-account organizational setup?
Great question. So DataZone has this concept of account association. So you saw that I created the domain in one account. But what I can also do is I can associate other accounts with this domain. So maybe I can also just show you really quickly. Or actually not, I'm actually signed out of my AWS account. But essentially what it can do is you can associate your accounts with a domain. And what that does, it enables you to publish from other accounts into a domain that may exist in a different account. So essentially that what it allows you to do is, you can, if you have an organization that's using 100 different database accounts, all of those accounts can be publishing into the same domain, into the same business data catalog. And that's one of the key value propositions of a business data catalog, that no matter where your data exists, it can all be brought into a single business data catalog, so that your data consumers don't have to go and look for data in multiple different places. They can just come to DataZone and find all of the data across all of the accounts from a single place.
Nice. Very nice. I have one more question, and I know this is going to drag us out a little longer, but where is that automated name creation coming from? So when you said that this table's name is good, we'll take it for the business language
Mm-hmm.
with the green flower mark, I think is what I'm seeing on my screen. Is that machine learning on the back end?
Yes, that's machine learning in the behind the scenes.
And where does the data for that machine learning come from?
So we have our pre-trained models that work out of the box. The models are trained on bunch of data, and that's why we are just able to generate these names automatically.
Nice.
Love the questions from the audience. Thank you all so much for getting those in. Please keep them coming. Although I do want to give everybody, I believe our producer is giving us the 10-minute warning. So want to make sure we cover everything you've got for us, Utkarsh, but keep those questions coming too, please.
Sounds good. So, right. So let me go to the schema tab. Also, you can see on the schema tab, we have business names for all the columns. So these look correct to me. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to accept all of these recommendations,
Nice.
which means I have added some business metadata to my data asset. I can also add descriptions for these columns. I'm just going to add a simple one. But these descriptions can be as descriptive as you want so that whoever is looking at this data, they can understand data with a lot more business context. And once I'm done adding this business metadata, I can simply publish this asset.
Where is that publishing to?
It's publishing it to the business data catalog. So now, because this data is in the business data catalog, anyone in the organization should be able to find this data. So let's quickly see, can we find this? I'm just going to type sales, and there you go. The same marketing sales table is now showing up in my search results. Now, even though I'm using the same account right now, but even if you log in as a different user, the business data catalog is common for all of the users, and all of them can see this table that I just published to the catalog. So this basically covers the data producer part, where a data producer created some data and then published it to the catalog, made it discoverable for others to use. So now I'll switch into the shoes of a marketing analyst who is looking for this data exactly, right? So
I just want to, we had a question come in from chat. That's an important one about the ownership of data and like all products on AWS. You know, the customer retains ownership of their own data.
Right.
How
So
it works.
exactly. So whoever is the publisher, that the publisher owns the data. And when I say publisher, it's all project, right? So all the project that has published this data to the catalog is the owner of the data. So
Yeah.
if you have 3 members in the project, all of them can act as owners. Any data access requests that come in, they can basically approve or reject those requests.
Okay.
So it looks like,
Go ahead, Gigi.
it looks like we're getting some further commentary on that too in the chat that helps explain better who that data belongs to.
Yes. Yeah. Hopefully that answers your questions. We had a question too that I think highlighted something that Ina had put in chat earlier. You know, I'm sure we can't get into details about the companies that have adopted the service. We don't have time, number one. Number two, though, I wanted you to take a moment to highlight what Ina was talking. Y'all worked with a lot of customers during the preview prior to going GA. A lot of those decisions informed some of the choices y'all made, right?
Mm-hmm.
You want to talk a little bit about that, Utkarsh?
Yeah, so we had a very successful preview. There were a lot of customers who tried DataZone during the preview, and we got some really positive feedback on some of the things like ease of use, the cataloging capability, and things like that. But we also received some feedback from customers on things that we could potentially improve. So I can talk a little bit about a few things that we have introduced. You saw already the business name generation or the automated metadata generation capability. That's brand new. That's one of the cool features that we have launched in GA that wasn't available in preview. And this whole UI that you're seeing, data portal UI, it's completely reimagined, completely redesigned based on customers' feedback.
Cool.
It's much more easier to use. Also, we did a lot of re-architecture under the hood, so the user experience is now much faster compared to what customers experienced in the preview.
Nice.
Some other things that we have done are APIs. That's the most important one, I guess. We did not launch our APIs during the preview, but in GA, all of our public APIs are now public, so you can interact with DataZone programmatically.
Awesome. I love it. I know you got to get to the data consumption side, so let's do that because we are running short of time.
Let's do it. So now let me switch into the shoes of a marketing analyst. Now, in interest of time, I'm not switching into a different account. I'm just going to use the same account. But as a marketing analyst who needs to access some sales data, again, I'll need a project. So I'm going to repeat the same steps that I did earlier to create a project and to create an environment. So just bear with me for a minute.
All right. If you missed this earlier, what Utkarsh is doing is creating the environment in which they're going to work with the data. It takes about a minute, so we'll be able to take some questions during that time too.
Yeah.
While that spins up, if y'all have anything. What do you think so far, Gigi? This is pretty.
This is
cool.
pretty sleek, I'll tell you that. I know we got one comment in the chat giving a shout out to our UI UX designers at AWS. They never get enough love, and I think, you know, as we keep releasing new services, it just gets better and better. Like I remember when we first released Lake Formation, must have been like 3 or 4 years ago, and everyone thought that was sleek. And I feel like this is taking that and extrapolating pieces of it, you know, building on top of it, but making it even more reasonable to expect someone from marketing, someone from sales to dive into. And it's fun. You've got a rocket ship on the website. How could you not be excited to learn more about your business's data with a rocket ship?
And talking about those customers too in the preview, that's how all of our features get implemented here at AWS, listening to customers. So if y'all have feedback about DataZone as you go out and try it, hit us up. Let us know. That's what's next for Utkarsh when he had the existential crisis after GA, is supporting customers and listening to their feedback and make a DataZone even better.
Yeah. What do they say, Utkarsh? It's like 90% of our roadmap is based on customer feedback.
90? Isn't that too less?
Is that less? Is it more? 95? Yeah. I think one time I said 95 and someone responded, "What about the other 5? You don't care?" I do care. I just also need to, you know, have my own ideas sometimes.
Yeah.
Not all the time, but sometimes. Utkarsh does need a vacation. Utkarsh, we're getting some good commentary.
We're talking about Amazon AppFlow integration with DataZone too. Anything to talk about there? There's specific asks about that integration too from Robert Tables. Extract parts of that data, do some minor transformation, push it to another SaaS like Salesforce. But is there AppFlow integration today?
No, there's no AppFlow integration today. But what's really cool about AppFlow is AppFlow has this functionality where you ingest your data from, let's say, a SaaS tool like Salesforce into S3, and AWS automatically catalog in AWS Glue Catalog. So DataZone is very tightly integrated with AWS Glue Catalog. And once your data is in the Glue Catalog, you can just simply bring it into DataZone very quickly.
I love it.
So even though there's no direct integration, there is a way for customers to bring their data from SaaS into DataZone.
Okay.
Nice. All right, let's see. Yes, so the environment has been created. Now we have an environment, a project and an environment for our awesome marketing analyst. What I'm going to do is I already searched for this marketing sales table. I can see everything that was published by the data producer. And now if I feel that I need to get access to this data, I can simply subscribe to it. I can provide a reason why I need this access. and just hit the subscribe button. And what this does is essentially it sends a notification to the owners of the data, which in our case is the data producer. And because I'm using the same account, you'll see that a notification is going to pop up on my screen. There you go. A subscription request was created, and it tells me that there is some user who has requested access, which is me. But essentially, what you can do is I can see this request as a data producer. I can see who has requested, why do they need access, and if I like them, I can just approve it.
Oh, or you can reject your own.
No, I like
request.
it.
Reject your own demo.
Oh wow, rub it in, Utkarshi. Like yourself. You know, not all of us here like themselves. Just saying.
Right. So it was as simple as this, that I requested, someone approved the request, and now if I go to my marketing project under data, if I go to subscribe data, I can see that marketing sales table is now showing up as a subscribed asset. Now, another thing that you will notice is it says adding asset. What does this mean? Oh, and also the notification pops up, right? When someone accepts your request or rejects your request, so that you are aware of what's happening. And then this adding asset thing, this means basically that DataZone is now under the hood going into AWS Lake Formation and creating the necessary grants in AWS Lake Formation so that the members of the project can actually go and start consuming this data. And that step takes about a minute or so. So we'll just wait here. There's a refresh button that I can click, and
you're getting some love in chat for the DataZone templates for new data project creation, and also from Robert Tables too.
Always from Robert Tables. What is happening on the back end while we wait? I'm curious.
Yeah, great question. So what's happening in the back end is, like I was telling, right? An environment has an IAM role associated with it. So what DataZone is doing is going into AWS Lake Formation, and on behalf of the customer, it's going to create a Lake Formation grant that will enable, that is basically give read-only permissions to this IAM role associated with the environment. And what that means is, once that step is done, as a member, when I go into Athena again, I will see this table in Athena, and I will be able to query it.
Nice. Very nice. Thanks.
And there you go. It says the asset has been added to an environment. And that means is I can go back to my environment, the marketing consumer environment, and I can click on the Amazon Athena link again. And you will see that, hopefully you will see that there is a table there that I can start using. Like I was saying, anything that you subscribe to shows up in your subscription database, and you can see the same marketing sales table is here. And just to prove that I have access to this, I can just preview this table, and it runs a select star query, and I can see the data.
Nice.
So
that's awesome,
right? So imagine like how simple this made this whole flow, where getting access to data can take weeks. Getting access to a tool like Athena itself could also take weeks. But with DataZone, you can just simply create an environment. All of the resources are created for you behind the scenes, and you have access to Athena. You can request a subscription and get access to data very quickly and start consuming it.
Well, Karsh, we have pushed the time to the limit. Unfortunately, I want to give you time to wrap up here. We had a question about licensing, so maybe you could just give us a brief summary about pricing in general for DataZone, and then, of course, obviously, tell us where to go to get started. I'm sure you've got some friends in chat that'll drop some links for you too.
Yeah, I'm sure people will drop links in the chat, but you can go to the AWS Management Console, search for DataZone, and just get started from there. In terms of pricing, our pricing is listed on our homepage, DataZone page. You can find it there, but it's a user-based pricing. So users that you activate, users that are actually active and using DataZone, we charge you for those users on a monthly basis, and there are a few other dimensions to pricing as well. You can find all the details on our pricing page.
Thanks.
You're getting a lot of love from chat, Utkarsh. You're a star.
Thank you, Utkarsh.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you, Gigi. It was really nice being here. I really enjoyed presenting DataZone.
We enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. Hope to see you again when y'all launch some new features and we can talk about DataZone again.
Absolutely. We'll be launching many features very soon.
Ooh.
We'll keep our eye out. Maybe reinvent, maybe not.
Who knows? Who knows?
We'll find out.
You have to stay tuned. All right, we'll talk to you later, Utkarsh.